Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. Exclusivity sucks, especially when you're stuck at home, some fresh new content drops that you're interested in, and it turns out that, oh, you can't play it because of a bunch of corporate BS. Activision, after much leaking, have unveiled Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, a sort of strange half-product that's missing multiplayer, missing Spec Ops, has a bit of a time-limited exclusivity situation on a platform, and has been denied by Sony Russia. You know, even though it was Sony who paid for that exclusivity. Yet, in spite of all of this, when we actually step back, think about the numbers, and analyze the franchise, well, while it may be pissing off some core fans, Activision sure are managing to grow Call of Duty in spite of its age and recent negative feedback. Now, today's show is brought to you by our latest project, The Daily Briefing, where our team does all the hard work for you, researching and analyzing all the latest gaming news, then condensing it down into what you need to know, the core news, the core takeaways, and delivering that right into your inbox. The Daily Briefing joins early access content and vlogs over on our Patreon pages, Patreon content, with our patrons soon being able to get it via email as well. Perfect for getting caught up even when you are busy. So, thank you to them for that, some hot new content for you to enjoy, and with that, Call of Duty, let's go. Modern Warfare 2 Remastered is a fairly strange product. Modern Warfare Remastered, of course not to be confused with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, or the latest Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, was a very successful game on consoles, a little bit less so on PC because of a bunch of reasons. I mean, just look at its Steam rating. Now, while COD 4 did well all the way back in 2007, it was only the beginning of the series' explosive mass market growth, with World at War, Modern Warfare 2, and Black Ops really just taking it to the next level. Of those 4 games, it seems that 3 kind of are getting remastered. Modern Warfare Remastered, of course, remastered COD 4, Modern Warfare. Then World at War has not been remastered, but now we're seeing that Modern Warfare 2 is getting a similar-ish treatment to COD 4. And then COD Modern Warfare 2019 reimagined COD 4 Modern Warfare. They sure have got a lot out of that game. Not confusing at all. Then, if the leaks are to be believed, 2020's new Call of Duty is a reimagining of Black Ops, so basically applying the Modern Warfare 2019 treatment to what at its time was actually Call of Duty's most successful outing, at least in terms of sales. Business-wise, this stuff all does make sense, but man, Activision sure are getting, well, all out of this that they can, right? I mean, still though, it's a remaster of a beloved game at a reasonable $20 price. What's not to love? What went wrong? And why are so much of the player base pissed off at Activision? Well, turns out there's a few good reasons. Exclusivity sucks. It's when companies compete with each other by, well, paying their partners not to release content to their customers. Yeah, that sucks. It makes the market less efficient, it reduces consumer options. Generally, it's just pretty bad, unless exclusivity is, say, funding unique content, like with, say, The Last of Us, which Sony, of course, totally paid for from the ground up. That is obviously not the situation here. This game would have happened anyway. Now, as is tradition for Call of Duty, some exclusivity stuff is happening again. Now, this is all rather funny, as not splitting the player base was actually a core part of Modern Warfare 2019, a game that had its maps and its patches actually drop on the same day across PC and all consoles. Seemingly, though, to get that, Activision had to do some real funky negotiations regarding their existing Sony deal. You see, for this entire generation, Call of Duty content such as patches and map packs, well, that all came a month early to the PS4. Modern Warfare avoided this, but at the cost of the game's Horde mode, admittedly something that was very throwaway and is a 1-year Sony exclusive. Of course, in Call of Duty land, 1 year means there'll be a new mainline game to play, so effectively it was just siloed off on the PS4. Now, while it was just a small bit of the game, that obviously sucked, especially because it was predicated on a technical reading of what Activision had said regarding exclusivity and sort of day-and-date content, rather than what many people took to be the spirit of their commitment. So yes, it sucked, but still, it was a throwaway survival mode. Most people were able to get over it. But a full campaign, Well, yeah, people do care about that. Modern Warfare 2 Remastered is a remaster of Modern Warfare 2's campaign, along the same lines as Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered, just with the campaign, and that was the game that was bundled, of course, with COD Infinite Warfare. Now, Modern Warfare 2 Remaster is playable right now on PS4, but if you're Xbox or PC, you've got to wait 30 days because, you know, F you, we had a deal. Now, this purely punishes people based on their choice of platform, and it just means you're sort of forced to get a worse deal for the same amount of money. That sucks, and the added element of suck is timing. There's a global lockdown, people are stuck at home, and in a world where gaming companies are generally trying to release content online, are doing pretty well, are seemingly being a bit more generous and good to their players, yeah, Activision just kind of went ahead with this exclusivity. Now, of course, to be fair to Activision, they probably didn't have a choice in that matter, given the deal with Sony. This is more just a case of terrible optics, and perhaps a situation where maybe a little bit of negotiation between those two parties could have led to a better experience for players. So there you go, exclusives suck. But you may have noticed this video doesn't end here, so what else? Well, as it turns out, the reasons for discontent certainly do not stop there. Many players wanted Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer to be a part of this deal. Why? Well, Modern Warfare 2019 took the franchise in a new direction. Now, I've got to admit, I quite liked it, but I'll also very much admit it is not for everyone. A lot of people don't like it. The game's multiplayer map design, admittedly, is very mixed, and the gunplay is a bit more divisive. And they've also had a lot of balance issues. Now, many players will remember the good old days of playing COD Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. You know, they want that older style of gunplay. They want the maps that they grew to love back in the day. And they're not going to be getting that. So because they're not getting that, that's kind of violating the expectations that were set by the original Modern Warfare Remastered. Now, Activision have said that instead of remastering the multiplayer of MW2, they've instead decided to add a few of the old maps into Modern Warfare 2019. Yes, they don't want to split the player base, but hey, PS4 first. Now, another strange part of this whole shindig is the leaked trailer, because I noticed that at the end of the leaked trailer, the copyright text dates it to 2018. Now, if you look at the official upload on the COD YouTube page, that's dated 2020. This has been ready to go since 2018. Now, 2018, yeah, it would have made sense for this game's release, as COD 4 Remaster released in 2016. Now, 2018 was the year of COD Black Ops 4, so perhaps that was a situation where Activision felt like they didn't need to pull Modern Warfare 2, out to actually pull in the sales. It's kind of hard to read into this. If this was indeed good to go since 2018, then maybe Activision held it back for the sake of timing, you know, to get people hyped up for Modern Warfare's general brand with their 2019 release, and then to capitalize on that with the Modern Warfare 2 Remaster, which of course would tie into Modern Warfare 2019 with the included cosmetics bundle and some maps. Business-wise, look, we can all see how that would make sense in terms of how you use the content that you've made. Though, based on this, many people have also then assumed that, say, a Black Ops remaster, something that is quite well desired, well, people are reasoning then that it would have no multiplayer component, and that has led to some preemptive dissatisfaction, based again on the rumors that Call of Duty 2020 is actually going to be Call of Duty Black Ops reimagined in the same way that 2019 was Modern Warfare reimagined. Yes, they sure are remastering and reimagining quite a lot of that franchise indeed. So then, the multiplayer that many people loved and is very different to the current game, that is not there. You've got that, you've got the exclusivity situation, especially amid the current global crisis, and yes, it hasn't went down well. Anything else? As it turns out, yes, there's more. Sony Russia has declined to sell the game. As for why, I mean, look, it's pretty clear. You do have the no Russian storyline, but I'd say it's especially clear given the context of COD 2019. That game's main enemy was a sort of rogue Russian general who was a bit of a silly cartoon villain character. Now, while you do team up with friendly Russians in the game, especially through the lore of the game's sort of post-game Spec Ops-like mode, well, they unfortunately made a few other missteps. The game is set in a fictional sort of Middle Eastern-ish sort of country, around that region, but it's got a parallel for the Highway of Death. that's actually just called the Highway of Death in the game. Now, the real Highway of Death is where, in the Gulf War, the American-led forces fired upon the retreating Iraqi army. The Iraqi army got torn up in that, and there is a debate over whether it broke the Geneva Convention. Hostilities were then ceased by the Americans a day later. So, arguably a war crime, at least some would consider it to be that. Honestly, I've not read into it enough to be able to say, certainly there, but certainly we can say it was a highly controversial situation that faced a lot of stiff criticism across the world, including at home in the US. Now, Modern Warfare's Highway of Death is essentially the same thing. It's retreating forces being fired upon by a vastly superior force. The difference is that in the game's Highway to Hell, Infinity Ward made it the Russians who did that. Now, given how they basically did an allegory for a real-world thing, but flipped the perpetrator of that highly controversial incident to their home country's sort of rival country, that obviously did not go down well in Russia. Probably even less so, given that there's also pretty deep ties between the American Armed Forces and Call of Duty. As an example, like you've got, even some GameStops had army booths. Also, there's been recruitment booths at esports events. So, go kill some virtual people, go to an esports event, join the army. It's a bit in the nose, isn't it? So, because of this, Call of Duty is not in particularly great standing with Russia. Given Modern Warfare 2's no Russian mission, I think you can see why the Russian authorities would seek to block the release of that game, because it's a country where those freedoms are kind of less of a thing. Now, whether Sony Russia preempted this or whether the state pressured them, we'll pretty much never know. Then again, I do imagine that just the general chilling effect of what happens when you piss off the Russian government would kind of do a lot of the work preemptively there anyway. Now, to bring this all back to Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, well, I'll say this. Not having multiplayer and Spec Ops sucks. I would have really enjoyed that. But that said, it also costs $20, and it's a part of a bundle that gets you some Modern Warfare and Warzone loot. And you know what? I think the pricing is actually decently fair. Call of Duty 4 Remastered, once it was finally available outside of the silly bundle they did, that had an RRP of like $40. So in this case, I think the story is less about a bad value proposition and far more about a massive failure in managing fan expectations and then just struggling with optics. The remaster itself looks pretty darn good, and the core campaign for that game is great. It's memorable. I still remember it vividly. The development work was done by Activision subsidiary Beenox, who are the dev who assisted Raven in building COD 4 Remastered. But actually, that's a core difference here, because Raven don't seem to be actually involved in Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. It seems to solely be a Beenox project. Now, more recently, Raven have assisted Sledgehammer with World War II, Treyarch with Blops 4, and Infinity Ward with Modern Warfare and Warzone. So perhaps with Raven somewhat moving on to larger things, maybe there just was not the capacity to remaster the non-campaign modes of Modern Warfare 2. It could be that, or it also could be that Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer was not monetized back in the day, and they would rather push people towards Modern Warfare, and maybe would not see the point in developing multiplayer monetization for the MW2 remaster when they could just put people over to the systems they've already made with MW and Warzone. Now, with all that said, one thing is for sure with the health of this franchise. For all of the rumored development issues with COD 2020, and I believe COD 2021 as well, and of course Blops 4, Activision right now seem to be doing okay. Warzone is killing it on player counts, as is COD Mobile. Modern Warfare seems to be doing quite well, and now Warzone is there to act as a free-to-play funnel that not only will sell microtransactions and bundles, but will also upsell Activision's premium Call of Duty experiences, Modern Warfare 2 Remastered and Modern Warfare 2019. Can the company keep this up? If they can, then I'd certainly say it seems like a decent time to be an Activision Blizzard investor. Well, at least from the Activision side. I will say that with Overwatch 2 seemingly being a way off, World of Warcraft Shadowlands seemingly being behind schedule, and Diablo 4 seemingly being very far off, it might be some time before Blizzard's work actually pulls in the big bucks for the company. So there you go, Modern Warfare 2 Remaster's story and some analysis of Activision Blizzard's business. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you would like more, then be sure to check out the Daily Briefing, where our team does all the hard work for you by analyzing the day's gaming news, boiling it down into a fast-to-digest form that you can really just get on the go and dropping it into your inbox. That's just one part of our Patreon offering that also includes your name in the credits, early access to our non-breaking news content, and behind behind the scenes vlogs with my coffee making video and my work desk setup being up there right now, and me working on a bunch of other ones right now as well. Thank you for the support, and with that, I'll see you next time.